stations within a small area, that the increase we're gonna have the use of carbon, energy and so forth. We'd like to reduce pollution.
And we also make that one of the concerns of the neighborhood was loss of open space. So we'd like to know how that's going to be addressed by the developer and by the conjunction with you. They're not paying attention.
Okay, so we haven't had a presentation from the developer yet, and you haven't heard from the public yet. So why don't you?
So, as the mayor, I would like to know from the public.
Do you want to hear from the? I skipped the developer before. You want to hear the presentation from
I
me?
do have one last comment before we finish the off.
Okay, so to staff.
Yes, the tax benefit to the city should this development go through is also to be considered.
Yeah, and we have done those studies, and we have found what they've said about the 2,000 jobs and the 500,000 out-of-state taxes to be a valid study. And back to you, Commissioner, back to your point about the energy, we will definitely take that, and we will, to the Commissioner about the energy, we will definitely go back and we'll put together a report, and we'll come to you and personally address those issues with you, make sure that.
Okay, so why don't you get a presentation? If there's no more questions from the commission for staff, then ask for a presentation from the developer.
Well, just out of curiosity, is the staff working with their boss or is the staff working with the developer?
The staff is supposed to be working for the city commission.
As a side note, I think ultimately it seems like we're working almost for you as well, and we might have had some meetings with you that maybe the city manager was not part of. Correct me, or
Those things are not supposed to be said out loud.
Yeah, the city. The staff works for the city, through the city manager, and the city manager is the conduit between the elected officials and the city staff. So, if a developer feels like the staff is not doing their job, they're too hard, they're too loose, they're not responsive, they will go directly to the city manager, and the city manager will motivate staff or let the developer know that, we've got to take a hard line on this. And just so you know, we're taking a hard line on this because she knows what the elected official's perspective is. So she's the city manager will be the conduit between the elected officials and the staff. You work for the city manager works for the elected officials. That's how it flows.
So right now, it seems like the staff were bribed by the developer, and they're now listening to the city manager. We're going to go to the developer to kind of hear what they have to say for themselves.
Yep. So sorry. Before you go to the public hearing, have a presentation from the developer.
All right. So we want to address the issues that we just heard. We will construct a LEED. We're shooting for a LEED silver certification. We are building a sustainable hotel. The evacuation route is being worked on. We don't have an answer yet. We are working on, with our a consultant about that. And overall, what we want to do is we're bringing we're revitalizing the city. We're bringing change. We are bringing increasing visitors to the area, because with our development there's going to be more people visiting the city. So you have to understand there's going to be more revenue, there's going to be an increase in taxes coming in to your city because of this new development. We are going to be by far the largest employer in town. We're going to employ 2,000 people, and it's going to also help economic status of the city. Anything else that you guys want to say?
Well, we've heard your concerns of both city staff and the local neighborhoods, and we are taking measures to address those concerns. We are going to provide 24-hour security guards for the life of the project, which is already incorporated into the budget. Traffic studies have been conducted, as you have all seen. The traffic reports have resulted in a reduced requirement of parking count. We don't need the actual parking that is required by the current zoning, but however, we will provide the current requirement just to satisfy the entire area and just ensure there is sufficient parking for any events that might come into the area, as we are a hotel luxury and we will be holding conferences. So we will be an attraction to the area that will ultimately result in more residents, more visitors visiting the area. Your comment regarding the parking garage being built first, we can definitely phase the parking garage simultaneously with the residential building. So there's no reason to halt the residential tower being developed while the parking is being developed. So those both will go up at the same time. Of course, the parking will be done at first. So to satisfy that concern, that is the measure we're taking.
Yeah, I'll follow up on some of those. You know, as I drove into the meeting today, I'm looking at the green space that we built for y'all, that we donated to y'all on our last project. And as I drive by, the kids are swinging on their swings, and you know, I'm just relishing in the fact that how well the project worked out. So, you know, as far as this project goes, as we mentioned, it is a LEED silver project. It will be your first LEED project you have built in your city.
Yeah, you don't know
True or not?
What's creative license?
We're making a fact here.
Not in.
All right, so let him finish.
And we have some extra parking spaces that are going to bring in some extra revenue for us. So we would like to negotiate with you all a preferential lease that we can give you some parking on. Also like to mention the bed taxes that we're going to create with our hotel. We're going to be able to bring a lot of extra revenue to your city. And you know, I wish you good luck on your re-election. Myself and myself and our employees are going to be back in Project Kills.
All right, anything else from the developer team?
Yes.
Okay.
We would like to hear what
talking.
the community needs. Is there anything that the community needs that we might be able to address as long as it's, you know, accommodating, it's not over the top? We would like to hear if there's any concerns or needs that the community.
Steve?
Yeah, before we get into the community, another concern that was brought before was the lack of green space. You know, we will be providing buffers. We will be providing buffers along our pool area just to ensure that the noise control is there, and residents along the surrounding neighborhoods will not be subject to any crazy amounts of noise, being as it's going to be a resort. People are going to be partying there. We just want to make that clear. But you will not be able to hear it. So we don't want to prevent the fun of the future potential visitors of our area.
And the public's going to have access on both sides of the hotel, so there'll be dedicated land for all the public to get to the beach.
Correct. We've also discussed possibly requesting a variance from you guys on the setbacks. We know the lack of open green space is a concern, so what we want to do is provide a park for the community, ourselves, and also the neighboring associations. So with the variance and the setback, it allows us to take that space and dedicate it to the park that will be located behind the hotel itself on the beach side. So it'll be a nice atmosphere for the surrounding communities.
All right. We've heard what you guys have to say. Thanks for the wishes on the upcoming election. As an elected official, I represent my constituents, and I support the project, but we cannot approve the project. Wow.
You gotta hear something.
We are not denying the project either. Let me finish. We're not approving and we're not denying. So, one of the main things that you guys brought up that I just want to get clarification on is that you said something about hiring 2,000 employees after the hotel is built. Now, question to my staff that did the study on the employment, you said 2,000 during construction and running the hotel. Okay. what happened after? Like, where's the numbers coming from?
The numbers were provided by the developer and
So inconsistency in data, that's an issue that we have here. The second one is the traffic study. How did you guys perform the traffic study? Did you do the car counts that drove by the intersections, or did you do a study based on parking lots?
Usually that's stated on the city's regulations, what method they're gonna use for a traffic study. And the city's, regulations state for whoever's gonna do the traffic, you have to go by this method. And whoever's, so we have to assume that they went by the city's, norms.
The council.
Yeah.
Well, that's my question. Like,
Well, we did.
you guys say you
We
did a
used the
study,
consultant,
and
they
we are just,
agreed.
We went by the specs that you provided, and while we were doing our traffic study, we also ran into some sewer and drainage issues. That, we're experiencing flooding in our parking lots every year from the tides, and we would like to know what the city's doing about that.
We wanted to
Maybe we
incorporate
can
you
help
to our stormwater plan, and that's what we were gonna ask staff. So we wanted to hear from you first to see if you proposed anything on that. We can ask from you from a voluntary covenant to help the city solve this issue. But
We would be
since
glad
we have not heard completely from the public, I think we should hear from the public
Yes.
and address their concerns, and then we'll make our decision.
There's
Yes.
one more component. Did I hear you say residential?
Yeah, the PUD.
Yes?
Yeah.
No, I mean, you might have used the term resident, but it's a,
Yeah, it's a hotel.
it's a hotel. Yeah. So-
It might be a hotel residence, we don't know.
Yeah,
No,
some people
no,
may stay
no
in the
more
hotel
than-
for extended periods.
Resort.
No more than 90 days by law, so we're gonna monitor that.
Okay, that's another sideline, we're not gonna go into the condo hotel restrictions. So, public, somebody, open the public hearing.
all right, so.
And you got
here-
a member of the public queued up.
As, let the mayor introduce you.
My name is Joe.
Sir.
Okay, let's not nobody let this go to your head, okay?
That was some respect.
My name is Joe, and I represent Neighborhood Association of the Preservation for the Preservation of the City's Natural Beauty. Our concern with the city is the environmental damages. And especially, the city has not done the research because this same company filed for bankruptcy in another city. This is all BS.
I'm sorry, you said
So
you
we
filed a
don't want
bankruptcy?
this project in our town. We don't want it. And someone will be losing, someone will lose his job.
Okay, and the next speaker is,
Who is the next speaker from the
The
public?
audience.
So did you said you're not gonna approve it, right? We're happy. That's fine.
We, as the elected officials, haven't made our decision yet if we're going to approve or deny the project.
We're listening to the public
We're
first.
still listening to public to
Well,
get
I
your
mean,
opinion.
just thinking outside the box here. What
give
if?
your name,
My name is
Say
Alex.
what
I
you're
have a
interested
large
in.
family of children. I have 10 children.
How's that possibly necessary?
And you know, I'm very annoyed. What I have a problem is that my children annoy me all day and they won't leave the house. And what if, to get this project approved, that you guys give the land where the big box retailer was and develop it into, say, a skate park? Or something where my kids can go and play during the day. You know, as an idea, because of you guys were tempting with the idea of bringing that and reusing that project, except you did bait and switch. You know, what if that was a penalty of some sort?
So you leave the kids out of the house?
Get my kids out of the house and stuff.
okay, thank you, you've reached your 3-minute limit, thank you, who's the next speaker?
Yeah, you have with 10 kids. Next. Anyone else from the public wanna voice their concerns?
Are you gonna offer any compensation?
Give your name, members of the
Okay.
public, give your
For
name, you live in
My
the
name
city, what
is
your interest
Ellen.
is.
I live in the 55 and over community.
Oh,
And we have some damage to our roof already from the last hurricane. So can we get any compensation to help for that? in
There's no
case-
nexus to that, so.
Ma'am,
He's right.
I
All
understand.
right, let her comment finish,
good,
and then you
yeah,
can
yeah.
get.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get some help
And then
Understand.
you're
with the
next to the queue.
association.
Because you're concerned.
Do it, ADA.
I mean, wonder if the dust and everything affects our roof, because our roof isn't as tall as your proposed 17-story building. That's all.
Have the answer?
Okay, I'm gonna take over as the mayor here for a second.
Am I impeached?
I know.
You just turned up.
So let me ask, city manager, has this developer met with the communities? Have there been any neighborhood meetings about this? I don't know.
No, not.
Developer?
Yeah, we had 2 neighborhood meetings.
Oh,
Who attended the neighborhood?
I did not see that.
Lies today.
Well, we invited everyone in the neighborhood.
Nobody showed up.
Actually, no, you
milk
didn't.
and
You did
To
not invite
some.
the unincorporated portion of the 3 buildings that need a new roof.
Okay, so here's, so let me just, step outside of the play acting for a minute, say that when, if there's no formal requirement in the city for neighborhood meetings, so that the elected officials might know or they might not know what meetings have occurred, maybe the developer met with them and told them, maybe they don't. But when it starts getting too heated, or they start hearing the same issue over and over and over again, they might politically shuttle you off to another neighborhood meeting, okay? They might ask the developer, well, it's clear to us that the neighborhood hasn't been adequately informed about your project, despite your attempts, so I'm gonna make a motion to defer, to allow you to have an additional neighborhood meeting to address these concerns. Would you agree to that? So, as a developer, you always need to be prepared for being asked what the hot buttons are, but being asked to defer for any stupid reason they might think of deferring you. Because deferral is always the safe thing for them. So to address a staff concern that they're not sure you've adequately addressed, to address a neighborhood concern, you always have to, confer among your team and be prepared for that request for deferral. If you're gonna agree to it, or if you're not, and if you're not, you have to say why, and you have to be prepared for denial and all that that means. So always be prepared for deferral. So let's, are there any other public hearing, are there any other issues that you could raise as members of the public? Anything else?
I got one real
We
quick.
are
Okay.
Everybody was very negative of the project, but I'm gonna come up and say, I'm unemployed, I really need a job. And, this sounds like a great project. I do some journeyman construction work, and, as my elected officials, I'd really like you guys to approve this project, because I think I can get a job through this program. And if you don't, the reality is, maybe I'll decide to run for your seat and say that you denied 2,000, deny me getting a job, and I'll get your job. How's that sound?
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
No, and that's,
That happens.
and that's something that a project, there have been a few projects. When I think about the, what's it called, Auberge, what was the project on the beach in North Fort Lauderdale that had been the Ireland's Inn? Auberge, I think it was going to be called Fairwinds, and now it's called something else. But I'll tell you that the very largest projects, they go out to the community and find support. They go to the business, the Chamber of Commerce. They go to the unionized or the organized. They go to the contractors, and they drum up. They know that half those seats are going to be filled with opponents. They need to fill the other half with supporters, and so they do. Part of their public campaign is finding the support and finding people who can describe the benefits of those financial things. So it's not always negative. Yeah, Andre.
To what extent do they go to get those supports?
They buy T-shirts.
I mean, it depends on the cost of doing that outreach and the value to them of getting that support. It really is. It's a matter of what is it gonna cost us to find the people, the constituents in the community who would naturally support the project and get them to come forward? What's it gonna cost, and is it worth it? Is it necessary?
So we're analyzing things we can improve on now, right?
Well, no, we're just sort of taking a time out to talk about the effect of the public comment. Sometimes it's negative, sometimes it can be positive if you go and find the positive speakers.
Yeah,
But
one
go
of the concerns I have is that the community needs investment projects. But, I think I'm not seeing enough effort to balance the aesthetics, you know, it's changing the whole, I think it's a significant impact on the look of the community, the change, the loss of certain things, and to say how we can preserve some of this, a give and take to balance it. I think more can be done to communicate with the public. I don't think enough effort is done.
All right, anything else in the public hearing?
Actually,
Just a question.
wouldn't it be fair to say though that when we analyze what everybody wants, it's by giving people what each segment wants that we can get the project through? So I also see it from the point of view of a public official. You really want the project because it's gonna add money to the tax records. You really want it. It's gonna add jobs, it's gonna add
Employment,
quality of
cachet,
life.
all
Right.
It's gonna facilitate the happiness.
But also you need to focus on the groups that really need something specific and give it to them. Like the roofs, I'm very concerned about the roofs. I wanna help them fix the roofs. Because you can't have a luxury development and then on the next big wind, the roof flies off the decrepit condominiums next door. So we gotta fix that.
I don't
That's
know
how I see
how,
it.
how a
Okay, go ahead.
developer, but that has nothing to
Do
do
with the
with the developer though.
I
That's
beg
not,
to
that's not our
disagree.
problem.
Wait, but the
I
developer
beg to
has to.
disagree.
So let Claudius make the argument for why the
Yeah.
local government.
I beg to disagree. Your building is gonna be higher, and you're gonna have a luxury hotel, 5-star, and keep looking down on the decrepit roof in your neighborhood. I think it's in your best interest to make some contribution to upgrade that property so you can maintain that 5-class status of the luxury hotel you're bringing to the community.
Okay, so you think
Well-
that's a rational nexus for imposing a condition on the approval?
Well, it's not a rational nexus per se,
No.
but it adds value to his property. Because, so it's in his best interest, not in the community's best interest, in his best interest, so there's no need
Yes.
for
Okay,
for
so
rational
you had a
nexus here.
contribution and then we'll come over here. This
I-
is like,
I have a
I'm like
question.
Phil Donahue with that.
If, I have a question
You guys
before
don't know who Phil
we
Donahue
leave
is.
the roofing topic. I mean, if you were the developer, wouldn't you just take that to court? Even if they required it, wouldn't you just take that to court? And they would, there's no way a court would ever.
There's no requirement, they're just complaining that they're moving.
No, but
out.
he's saying that there should be a city requirement
Oh.
to pay for this. And if the
okay.
developer
No.
went to court, they did not do
No.
it.
Yeah, that
I
Phil's.
think that the city could, in some way, help contribute to that, lower the taxes for that specific, something like a contribution from the city, not directly from the
You can say
developer,
from
because the
both.
developer is already, yeah.
And just out of curiosity, don't you guys have insurance in your property? Maybe the city should look into that property.
Right.
Also,
Right,
we know that
I
condos
think-
can pay for their assessment every month, never mind a special assessment for roofing
Yeah.
or other stuff.
So, so maybe
Can
they,
that be part of an impact phase to improve the area?
no,
No,
no, not to improve private property.
the city, no.
Okay, one last comment and then I'm gonna stop for a minute.
I just disagree with us as like a developer fixing up the roof, because we're already adding value with, by incorporating the hotel in the area. And you're gonna use this double by trying to add value to your own property. I don't think that's fair.
Well, don't you think?
No, I mean, I'm saying if I was a developer, like, I don't agree with what you're saying about it, so I don't.
Does this have
So,
to
the only-
There's excessive
Oh, yeah.
transactions.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, wait a minute. So Steve,
Question.
did you have something?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, in reference to the roof topic, I see from previous discussions, I've learned that your budget's about $100,000 to replace a roof. We are going to be providing contingencies for the impact of the construction as far as debris, noise, clean up the building. So instead of actually funding that portion, we can allocate those funds to you guys. So you guys can take that portion of the funds and budget appropriately to fix your component of the roof. So rather than us actually mitigating the construction impact of the dust and debris and noise, you guys can go ahead and take that fund and do whatever else you'd like to do.
Okay, so let's just talk for a minute about this whole idea of the damaged roofs on the adjacent property is triggering a whole bunch of issues. So let's think it through. So can the city legitimately impose on the developer a condition that they fix the roofs of their neighbors or that they contribute?
No, not imposed, but
Okay.
suggest.
We all impose. We all agree with that, and I think that's the right conclusion. There's not a sufficient nexus between
Right.
the impact of the development and that condition. Invalid. All right. There's a public policy. There could be elected officials that, you know, they know those condo people are voters.
They live in the building.
But they also know that there was a conscious decision on their part to underinsure because they didn't want to have to pay the assessments. And the elected official might not be willing to go too far to help them because it was their decision to underinsure their property. The elected official will come around because ultimately they have to deal with the fact that the building is there and the residents are there. So what do you do about it now? So there are some solutions. Some cities that have a community redevelopment agency, or even without one, they do have a fund, and it's supported by federal block grant money to assist homeowners in making necessary improvements in their home. It could be that such a fund could be, if it exists, the developer could contribute to it, or if it doesn't exist, it can be created. And then there's a whole separate bureaucracy. There's a bucket of money, and there's a whole separate bureaucracy that will then exist to allow owners, condominium boards to come and apply for that money. And then it becomes administered. You make a grant application, there are conditions, you have to demonstrate that you got a good price, that you use licensed contractors, that you draw down the grant funds according to a schedule or something like that. So there could be a voluntary solution if the developer was willing to make a contribution that would then flow the money into a city system that might feed money to the condos to help them fix their roof. It could be a private agreement that the developer calculates that they're going to have, they might cause $100,000 worth of damage during the construction, and they're willing to simply pay the condo to achieve their support, but also to offset the cost of that impact. Whether they use it to offset the cost of the construction impact or they use it to fix their roof is their business. So there can be a private solution, and there might be a mixture of a public and private solution to something like that. But I'm glad to hear that you all concluded that there is no rational nexus for imposing that requirement.
Yeah.
Phew.
But
Go ahead.
we can impose an impact fee and not state why.
No, you
Okay,
need
now
a
let me
rational
ask a
nexus
question.
too.
Let me ask a question. When a project comes in the door and makes application and checks off all the boxes that are in the code, can the local government at that point in time decide to adopt an impact fee ordinance and impose it against that project?
No.
Probably not. It has to be, first of all, they can try, and they can say that it applies to all, they can try to reach back to applications that are already in the door, but that's pretty risky.
Or they can
Generally-
change the ordinance.
Right, generally, you're supposed to get the benefit of the code that's in effect when you make your application. That's how it works in the building code, right? It's the code in effect at the time you submit your application.
Yeah.
And that's usually the fair way. A city or county government can retroactively apply something for an extraordinary needs because of public health and safety, but it's a higher standard, it's harder to defend. Yeah.
So being that there is a rational nexus between the construction impact and the damage to the building, would it be appropriate for the developer to go ahead and do as I stated, kind of suggest taking those funds that were appropriated to compensate for those damages and let them do whatever they want with it, just to satisfy everybody, make them happy?
It can be,
Because regardless, we're gonna have to spend the money anyway, so.
I mean, it can be done. If there's a city program that would assess the developer for off-site construction impacts, that can be paid and designated in some other way that still serves the public benefit. But If the developer is gonna simply flow money to the condo owners to fix their roof, if I was the elected official, I would prefer that that be a private agreement. If the developer objects to that, then from a city perspective, I would want to utilize some sort of block grant program to funnel the money through so that there are checks and balances in place for what the public, you know, to ensure that the money is being used for the intended purpose to improve existing development that upgrades the neighborhood.
I would argue that if there was an effective meeting between the developer and the neighborhood, the developer would have realized that the condominium has got a lot of powerful residents, and they will object to their project unless they can realize some benefit from the developer's plan. So it is in the, it's in the developer's best interest to meet with those condominium big shots and try and get them to buy in, and part of that buying process, have a private agreement to try and take care of the roofing problem.
Yeah.
Well, I would look at it from the perspective, me being a developer, why would I give them voluntarily money to fix their roof when they were negligent in upkeeping the property, for one, okay? For two, you gotta look into the future. What guarantees do I have that they're gonna upkeep the property and that there's not gonna be any more damage or decrepitness to the property, which could, you know.
And it comes down to what's the cost to you of them appearing in opposition to your project? And what's the benefit to you of them staying home or sending a board member to say that they support the project?
Just an alternative
I think that we can make like all developers, a developer, they have to try to, I mean, it's part of the expenses, I guess. I mean, you're trying to, for people to buy into your project, and you might, I mean, that's something that no matter what, even in the one that we worked on with the golf courses, I mean, he had to work with the people and he had to give them some stuff because they were opposed, and at the end, they were very happy because everybody wants something. And when you give them something, it's better than nothing. So I feel that that's part of a developer. I mean, you might have to add that cost no matter what. Being a developer, relationship is the most important thing, and you have to work with city, with people, and you know, if you have one against you, that will cost you more money. You already put in a lot of money just to send an approval. Probably you have to pay a lot of impact fees, this and that. I mean, you put in a lot of money at the beginning, and I guess that is just part of it.
Yeah.
I think that there has to be a social responsibility from the developer, but up to a point. I mean, when do you draw the line? You're always going to have opposition. Somebody's going to stand up and go against your project somewhere for whatever reason. But I think reasonable demands, like the roof, is an unreasonable demand. If I'm the developer, I would say, no way. If there's a fund, a federal fund, or a fund created by the government that I could contribute to, that, you know, somebody has to take care of that, because I don't, like you said, I don't know if these people are going to be responsible enough to maintain the building. And at the end, if I'm building a 5-star hotel, I don't really care if 2 blocks away there is a, you know, it's a, as a developer, my surroundings are not next, I'm not next to those buildings. So I want to make money. I want to contribute to the city, but I want to make money as a developer, and I'm willing to give to the city. I'm willing to go LEED Platinum, open the green spaces, anything. But I want to make money, because otherwise I'll be working.
Now, just a second, I'm going to, okay. Think for a minute about all of our discussions so far. How much of it was about the politics, and how much of it was about the technical requirements of the PD code?
50-50.
I don't even think it was that. I think it was 80-20. I think it was 80-20. All right, so the code.
The codes were like the tolerance to get the politics.
Now, we're not dealing with a fully developed, you know, a fully baked thing here, okay? This was a little, a little scenario, and it doesn't have a fully, just wait, it doesn't have a fully developed code and so on. In reality, the codes are just the first step. That's what I want you, you will have books and books of codes that you and your consultants will have to comply with. You don't even get around to talking about the benefits of the project and the beautiful design and what's the vision for your city if you can't get through complying with the codes. That's the first step. By the time you get to the public hearing, it might or might not be a topic. But notice that once we get into a dialogue, we're not talking about, you know, most of us a little bit, maybe the technical setback. Even when you are talking about the deviations, okay? A PV is supposed to allow you to deviate from the basic code standards in exchange for better design. So the presentation from the staff and from the developer, we didn't have enough facts here to do that, would describe this, that the developer's project would deviate from the underlying zoning in these particular things. The setbacks would be reduced, the height would be in, you know, whatever the deviations are, the staff would analyze that very specifically and would present that to the city commission. And then they would talk about, and the developer would talk about the beauty of the design and the benefits of the project that can be achieved from those deviations. Yes, we are something like we're reducing the setbacks, but that is in order to increase the balconies and make them, you know, enhance living space. So yes, we have small 700 square foot units, but they have larger than average covered lanais, which, you know, plays to the high end of the residential development if we were talking residential, something like that. The architect would talk about the design that can be achieved because of the deviations from, so all of that technical stuff you'd really have to get over that hurdle before you would talk about these other politics. But look how easy it is to become passionate about the vision of the community, the politics of the community, and what the needs are of the different stakeholders. That's what I wanted you to get a feel for from this. I'm trying to think if we're going to do one more turn here about what?
This one to do.
Yeah.
To death? Okay. But were there any last comments about how this whole thing went?
Yes, I looked about from visions in different groups. One thing I was concerned about, and it keeps coming back to me, is that this project, the concept of the project seemed to me like what you would put in an area where you have so much more other similar lots that you use, as opposed to an area where you're going to preserve the aesthetics and, you know, all that, and be sensitive to the environment. You know, because you only have so much water and intracoastal area. And when you develop these areas, you put a premium really on your footprint and being sensitive, being sustainable. Those things are important, and I didn't hear anything of that one.
So you think that the bar should be higher in areas like waterway uses?
Yes.
Because of it. And I'll say that's not unheard of. In the city of Fort Lauderdale, they have a waterway use standard, and in certain zoning districts that are actually on the water, you are only permitted to put water-dependent uses. Okay, so if you can have a condo, but it needs to have a boat, and there is one. There's a condominium on 17th Street that has boat storage, because it's right on it's right on the water. So I think cities can adopt valid regulations that have criteria that are specific to those kind of unique adjacencies, like to water or something else. Just like they do the airport. I mean, that's a health and safety issue, but those adjacencies are a valid basis for regulation, I think.
Well, I just wanted to say that this scenario brought out a lot of features that are germane to this course, and I certainly appreciate the opportunity and the exposure to actually participate in this activity. It's a great activity.
I'm glad it's true.
It can be so hard when you're in one place and then you have to switch roles.
Yeah.
Because then you're like, oh my God, let me think about, you want to really be mean, but it's hard because you're already wearing that position. So it is help sometimes to think about,
Well, there's one thing I want to introduce here, and get you to think about. What do you think a city could do to encourage that redevelopment of the big box site? From what you know about land use regulation now, what do you think a city could do with its land use regulations to incentivize or encourage, and I'm giving you a hint here with the incentivize. Okay, so make it a PD, but you've already adopted a regulation that allows the PD.
Remember what you talked about overlay, zoning, like you can do either or both.
Or what about some credits?
Okay, credits against what? To encourage, like,
business?
Tax credits, maybe?
maybe tax
Development
credits?
credits, like, we're gonna build the big box a certain way so that we can build our hosted site the way we really wanna build it.
Well, let's just focus on what the government can do.
Probably property taxes, like don't be property taxes for nothing here.
Right,
Incentives, maybe
Create
incentives?
incentives like
Tax
tax.
Deferred, some tax.
Oh, with government.
Yeah.
Maybe, and I'm not wearing my city attorney hat to figure out what would be valid and what wouldn't, but these are the kind of things I'm looking for.
Maybe like a performance zoning for that whole area, make it really attractive to the developer, or maybe just even a certain use. Just make the zoning just really attractive, to a certain use to bring someone in.
What about, yeah, Jeff?
Can't they just hold the other PD hostage? I mean, the reality is it's the same developer, and so ultimately you don't get the approval for this PD unless you start movement on the other PD.
That might work for a while, but I'm not sure. They're gonna say, we're really sorry that you think that it was deceptive, but we have a right to pursue this application. And you've got to give us a fair shake. I'm not sure that that'll hold out for forever. But what can the city do? Okay, let's think about why the big box site might have fallen into the state that, Target or Walmart or somebody moved out and left it vacant, and nobody wants to move back in. I think you need to give some thought to why. Why is it now no longer an attractive site? What the city can do, always, is improve the neighborhood around it in the public realm and improve the infrastructure, right? So they can look at the streets, the sidewalks, the public parking. They can improve all the infrastructure around it to make it more appealing as a development site. They need to really know their business to know whether it's going to be sufficiently beneficial, but yeah.
Can they, I don't know if it was demolished, it's a big box is still there, right?
Yep.
So they can propose adapt use, like, convert it into a, assisted living facility if the city needs it, or a school, or,
So maybe they can review their zoning and determine what regulations are impediments to readaptive use and modify the regulations to encourage readaptive use. That's good. That's good.
No height restrictions.
Or something about that parking is always one of the problems, that maybe parking adjustments are more available for the readaptive use of existing buildings, something like that. Streetscape, that was the infrastructure thing I was talking about. A city's gonna have a certain amount of money in each budget year to do that kind of work, and maybe they direct some of it to this neighborhood to improve the streetscape and make it more appealing.
Satellite police station, I mean, it sounds like it's not a great area.
Yeah.
I know security is always.
That's true
you
too.
could put it in.
Put your cell phone tower on our hotel.
That's a good thing. Doing locations that are needed for public, they can put a substation there. They can do a short-term lease for some other public use to try to generate activity to the neighborhood and start the upgrading.
How about an appropriate recreational activity like bowling alley or something like that, sporting activity or something along those lines that will bring traffic to the area?
If it brings money
Playground.
to the city.
Yeah.
And yet, what you want is public. You want to leverage the public money to get the private money, right? That's what the city needs to do.
Exactly.
So they can't make a permanent use of it, or they lose it as an option for public and private investment.
Yeah, I keep thinking of where, and Catalina Island, off the coast in California, where they have a small amount of land and they have residents living year round and everything. And they have managed to balance maintaining open space, still have development, still attract tourism, but you have to control growth and balance it. Because I think there are federal funds and other funds that can be tapped to make sure you have some growth. But I don't think it's in the public's interest to just have so much development and, whole-scale development and lose that. You only have so much land, and when you have waterway and so forth, this is something that as developers we need to be sensitive about and be stewards of it and balance how much you make. You can actually make more because as you use and make a limited amount, the value of what and how it's valued, because there's a certain clientele who come to travel to enjoy the beauty of the area and to balance that with the community.
Okay. Last thoughts on the exercise. Does anyone so excited about this whole process that you want to be the mayor who makes the ribbon cutting speech? No? Okay. So, well, I don't know when lunch is going to get here. I don't want to start on something else. There's no food yet. But let's take a break, wait for lunch. I don't have slides on it, but I want to give you a little bit more information about the case that I mentioned, Snyder. And then I will be available for any questions or review. And that will be it.
Oh, yes. Well, I see.
I'm going to email it at 5 o'clock today, and I'll get you back Monday at 8. Monday at 8.
Don't remind me.
Before Saturday. Yeah, I have a job.
You know how we've been all week?
Yeah, that's what we
Let's say he cost his job.
You say you unemployed, right?
I know.
Hey, what's going on?
That's not true. Just gotta be able to raise.
And I'm gonna take one next semester, and I'm gonna leave the 2 online.
You don't have to. You don't have to. I appreciate that.
I have 3 classes left.
Take a break for a week.
Yeah. Last semester I said no more. I took 4 classes and I said no more because I worked with them.
How much position you set up?
I will say that.
I'm making, I have 4 classes left for the program. I'm gonna go over it, but I can take it 4 is too much.
So when do you intend to do
Or is
that?
it time to go?
I already did it. Oh, next year. I don't know. It's online. I don't really. I did the therapist one. I need to do the
Oh, so you've done the Arabs one?
Yeah.
I had actually
you find that the Argus class belongs with another one heading one?
It's mandatory.
If you get a higher on
If you take like, what are you planning to grade this semester?
that's good.
I wanna take as little as possible,
She
it's
won't.
season
It'll be the
for me
80
and
to
I'm
the
choking
60
for
we got.
time,
Yeah.
so I need to take as, I can go to 2-3 years, I don't care.
Okay, take one,
Not replacing.
and if, you know, if you
Replace the
take
final
like,
one.
capital market.
Right,
Or
if
the
you
other one
get a
that's
higher,
offered,
They pushed
If
me.
you get a
I
90
think
on the
one-
final, replace the grade. If you get a 75,
Setting the capital
Are you
market.
guys taking the all four classes?
Study, but,
Yes.
as I understand that
Oh,
they
yeah.
go together.
It doesn't, you have to talk to your advisor and let them know.
It seems that the online
Fred
classes
will work,
are
you don't,
meant
I don't know if
to
you'll need
go
to.
together.
So you're doing it
Really?
All
Who
four.
said that?
I bet I don't pass
And,
this.
and that's.
Just got my-
what
Grade out
I
Is that a reason?
Huh?
Now,
What did you
I
say?
haven't taken capital
You have to
market.
get
So I get,
five
so
chapters.
if
I
I
have
don't
that.
pass next week,
Capital market.
Do we have anything to do for first
Yeah, capital
Yeah,
markets,
you have to pass
like 6
basically,
and a half,
about,
Oh, yeah, see, I got the book, I didn't.
election, right?
Yeah.
I got a lot.
no, because November 1 is their date.
But,
And
Is
then
it every
I don't know how long
Saturday
the
or
traffic
every
is.
Saturday?
Every other.
No, it's a good
Three classes, yes.
So you probably what, you're
There's
probably.
four, 2 online and 2 in person.
Yeah, so I got, so if I get my science question,
Argus,
that would be
financial analysis, which is online too.
2 weeks to the second.
Markle and market analysis. Market analysis and Argus are online. Developing strategy and,
I don't like the way that curve goes, I'll be back in 2 weeks.
capital markets are in person.
What?
That's how styles would be, man, like,
You
yeah,
can
we
do that
are
squat.
on winter vacation.
Where did we go?
That's even better.
What? A fake lunch.
You seem to know
They're not
about,
delivering lunch anymore?
It was like, I'm gonna get pregnant.
Here soon,
But you don't
okay.
have the most confident yeah.
trying to get his attention.
So, you wanna go?
Ollie and Davey.
It's not a room.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Reliable
Well,
squad
it's party,
member.
go, let's take a walk up.
But, let me ask you something, you know about that class I just heard you talk.
Which one?
No, I got nothing.
The development strategy, that's in class, right? So that's.
Development
Yeah,
strategy, yeah, it's in class, that's the work he's teaching.
Yeah, it's a class. He said it's set online.
He hasn't assigned a book for that one though.
No, he said there's no book.
Because I'm confused, I heard that it's not in class.
No, it's in
No,
class.
it isn't.
You were the
It was
go-getter.
So you got a new role now, picking up the lunch?
Yeah.
Are you taking
Okay,
that?
so,
I thought it wasn't
see,
too.
that's what I'm trying, I need to slow down, so.
My advisor told me it was that I had class for the weekend, but I guess she doesn't really know it's fine.
No, because the strategy was supposed to be online, but he doesn't want it, and then we'll be here
3
every
online
other.
classes, yeah.
Right, that would make sense.
He sent me this one.
No, I don't have the
But I
same.
asked him
just have
yesterday, he
two.
said the strategy is
Yeah, I
in
think
class.
somebody else got two.
31st, the 14th, and then this is when the cruise is, so it's not like every other Saturday.
You guys are doing the crew or you guys don't know?
But let me understand, we're talking about 4 classes, right?
Yeah.
Argus is for sure.
Argus is online for sure.
Argus for sure, okay.
Yes.
My
Did
debate
did
is
you
should
get
I
it in
get
school?
the
She
real
don't
estate
know, huh?
development strategy, because that whole
Okay,
thing
let me
is
go, let
just
me go
doing
over.
an actual project. The whole class is doing a project.
I don't know how.
He
I
said
grab
he
napkins
explained
either,
to
so.
me this
Let me go
It's
get
basically
some.
creating this online portfolio. That's really what it's about, but it's of all of your work that you're gonna use throughout the program. It almost looks like an online resume, if you will.
Okay, so I can skip that. Good, for now. And the other one is okay.
What's the other
Market and
online program?
feasibility analysis.
That's gonna be the hardest
that's
one.
No, that's the online one.
Yeah, that's
You're thinking
online.
of, you're thinking
Capital
of,
market.
you're thinking of capital market.
Capital markets, we know it's
That's supposed to
lecture,
be the hard
it's.
Yeah, that's gonna be the hard one.
Right.
Usually,
Everybody says it's the hardest class.
Yeah, it's the hardest.
Somebody else. What's his name?
Like, they require a lot of time.
No, I did, but.
Yeah, you have a project every week.
Project every
It's
week.
a case study, but they said that it takes like 8 hours to 10 hours to do those case studies.
Yeah, it is one every week. We have to present every.
And then you present every class.
They send me syllabus?
Yeah, but I didn't-
But they said it was one of the most helpful class. They learned the most in that class.
No, guys, because
The
talking
capital
about
market.
talking
So there's a
shop.
project in every class.
And every week, yeah. I have to reach 5 chapters.
Which classes are you talking about?
Capital markets.
Oh.
I just plan on. I kind of wanted to do it in a year.
Yeah, me
I
too.
wish I
I
can.
graduated by July.
I need like a
I don't know. I'm just so burnt out.
mental
of
break.
school.
Yeah, guys, I
I
mean,
can't.
this is intense, so. I'm
I think what
sorry.
made it intense was of Mark's class, because he wasn't a good professor.
The way he explained things, he was a good professor.
He's a good person, but he didn't
I liked him
teach.
too, but I
He
felt like
wouldn't let
could've
anyone
gotten
talk. When
some
what's his
more
name would talk, he
detail
cut him off. He would
about
explain
certain
something. He'd be like,
things,
no,
and then
that's
he
not
would
the
touch
way.
you on it.
And he would almost
I
explain
didn't feel like
something.
that was
Right, right.
Okay,
And it was all based on the
moving
economy.
forward, like you're all full-time here, you're taking
Oh, I'm taking
everything?
I am. I'm a full-time student.
And you're taking everything?
I'm a full time, yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah, I know.
It's
With my
gonna be a
working,
tough one.
it's
Okay, so
Sorry.
those of you doing Argos, you need to download and make sure it works on your computer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm downloading it.
I heard the Argus class is supposed to be easy. That's what these guys said. Argus, the Argus class.
I mean, I'm
is
good with
pretty
like
easy.
numbers and charts and shit, so.
Yeah.
Everything is relative.
Yeah. Until you actually.
Oh, sorry.
Well, Trowan said he's like, this is gonna be your hardest class of the program.
What?
Trowan.
Say which class was the hardest?
That's
His
Trowan
blood
said.
trade class.
Trowan said that.
His was really hard. I'm like worried about that one.
I hope your parents are very low with that.
I'm like generally like concerned about that.
I mean, the project was just bad because it was hard to be 5 minutes. Busy week. We get together. Some of the stuff that like was in our group, I didn't
Initials?
the SWAT
I
policy.
think
You
so.
didn't know what it was until you said it.
Until he said
Yeah, I know.
he said one of the strengths of having a strong.
What I ordered, that's.
Yeah, that's why I put it.
When I was putting that in.
I was like, oh shit. That's what I was.
So that's when he said that, then I was like, what can I connect it to? I was talking about international trade.
Like in that
Yeah,
sense,
you
that
saved
makes
it. You
sense.
saved it really well though.
No,
You
yeah,
saved
in
it
that
really
sense
good.
it makes sense, but I was like, what is the Latino community?
Yeah. Other than that, it had nothing to do with it.
And they were presenting it, it says it was the Latino community.
Oh, but you locked. Oh, I think I locked.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we were here till 6:30.
I locked.
We're gonna put the initials on there now.
Yeah, I felt like we didn't have enough.
If it was a choice, I think we would want to be there till like 10 o'clock.
But it was also like.
Sorry.
But it was the question. They would have gone
You
through
were questioning like every single
Yeah.
thing. And I'm like, Mark, we're not there yet. Can you like wait till I get to the next slide? Like, calm down.
Right.
Like, you'll question will be
Like,
there.
it would be
I'm
there.
not there yet.
Right.
What killed me, one of the details that he was.
Yeah, and
Like,
yeah, exactly. Like we wanted like it to be
he
like.
should have let you finish and then started going.
Right.
Like ours was for German.
He's gonna watch these. Is that still on record?
No, but he doesn't see that. He's not fully busy.
Yeah, but they're posted all on YouTube.
And I want my mustard too. TK, hot Adam.
You guys have really watched the videos together.
Is there any mustard?
Yeah, it's mostly online. There's minimal meetings.
Right there.
Yeah, I watched it.
Right here.
Oh, thank you so much.
I know I'm nervous as hell with this, but listen to myself on the video, I don't really sound.
On your research paper? That was not part of the plan. I'm not sure how we would ever do
I guess I kind of.
It said something there that you, I never ordered soup before this was.
No, I've never. Not in practice.
So you guys are doing the UA live?
It said something about bacon.
So you're gonna drive?
No, I've never had it. That's all I've ever had. Never tried.
Well, that's a 2.5 hour day.
I went to get it because
because I read the building, so. And I thought
So you're for
it's
sure not
not-
doing the
it's
cruise?
kind of
Let's go.
makes it fresher for
Let's go.
everyone.
I'm not gonna see that.
Yeah, sure.
Because they may not trust you.
And my boss is like, great, and my boss is like, it's not so meaning like, honestly, my boss is honestly, like, I'd rather you go to the ULI thing where I'll be, I can show people than like you.
Maybe if you're in person, it's just Turks and, exits, yeah. Some people that might help you out here. There's some future job search.
I'm turning this into a
Maybe drunk.
You like one of the cruise? Or no, I'm just like, I'd say pull a shot of that, but I didn't talk.
Are you supposed to tell them like right now?
Pretty soon.
So we've got a classroom.
If you're gonna do it, do it.
Argus developer.
At least they get to the 13th to let they get like a.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, what's up?
When does class model?
December 13th to January 10th.
That's like undergrad.
I don't want to stop. I
Goes
haven't
into
stopped.
the course, so the value differently than college. Condos are sold out in a longer phase, like several years to sell it, which is like a money up front in a apartment, so it's great. So they came up with these developers.
It's not what Saturday I missed. I'm going to one of the I know, I wasn't interested.
And my friend texted me and said, oh, you wanna go out?
I mean,
I was
you're
like,
gonna go for
I
Halloween
was responsible. I was like, I'm sick. I'll put the excuse I'm sick, so I don't feel
Yeah, I was gonna have that on.
I just might do that for a minute.
Is there anything wrong with it?
But as we take the course, we're allowed to use
That's why that's what I'm doing. Actually, it's never been there. When you just run by it and then it's for mine. Yeah, if you see it. Actually, I'm searching for project. Nah, man,
Yeah, I'm gonna start that homework.
That done today.
Hasn't gotten building the model.
I grew up on a plane. I mean, this outfit
Yeah.
is like, you got some out this guy.
I was thrown right into it.
You just ruined
We're sitting on Arkansas.
deep sea fishing. I'm
Trying to learn.
You want to start it?
Okay, so I'll see you.
Where? What am I going to do?
Financial side of it.
Like already, you kind of already
I spent like 2 years ago, but
still waiting on that.
All the time.
you're out.
No, I didn't, but I have like our initials on that?
They forgot me, but I told them to add one on and they're making it now. At least it's good.
Have you been going out around this area? No.
Also, we are going to go so hard.
We got this last time when we
Other than that, I don't know.
That's why you were
Doubles, you get like three. After the like entries.
At least the place that I've gone to, one drink is $25. Well, yeah. That's always worth it.
My intake on down. Shame. You guys anything else?
worse than the one hammer.
Watching the MSG games, like, looking at the bar, how they treat
Is it weird
They're
that-
out here, like, so, like, you know,
I know Cowboys.
Is it weird though that
guys,
you know, the Rebel bus,
Oh, yeah,
I know,
I
like,
know.
it's like a fine, but like,
Yeah.
Corona and stuff like that.
So that's a very like southern.
That's all I do, black label.
I can't handle it. Every time I get home, I pour one.
I gotta try
I
it.
don't know what before I
I don't know how. I don't know what kind of.
But I can't. Beer? No.
Country bars. But it's, they also play like rap and stuff. So I guess.
We like drag, we like when we look together, she drag, we feel like drag.
The rap.
I've never walked in there.
Yeah, I've never walked up. I don't.
The only, when we went to Brian a few weeks ago, like, the only way to do it was like shit face.
Really?
What happened? Around that?
People have tried so hard. Like, I made it hard to park.
It gets around.
I was thinking the same thing.
Oh, okay.
I like the dance, like, I like doing the dances.
Class is supposed to be online, isn't it?
I'm like this video.
Singers not coming.
The development strategy. He was just telling me. This is what he's saying. It's a lecture class. He's changing his mind.
Who's telling you that?
I've been practicing for a long time.
Have you spoken to Professor Ford?
Regarding,
Anything since the class was over?
I asked him if I was to take the smallest, just to be involved, because I can't before Christmas. He says just the August class.
Oh, if you had to take one thing, what would you
Just
take?
one, yeah. He said
Yeah, because it's a one credit class, so I've heard it's two? Okay, the other one's one. I guess DCF is one.
What's the other
No, they're all two.
They're all
They're
two?
telling me that
Oh, we don't have any ones?
capital markets is scary, is what they said.
Capital markets. I think it's because you learn a lot.
Yeah, you know, like, oh, like, I just got to class.
Oh yeah. No, that would be.
Because there's a case study that takes about 8 hours.
Yeah.
Like, reading and like.
That's what they just said, I just.
I mean, I heard that. They get into more case studies as we go on.
That's the time we'll take those.
That's cool. That's
More
really
analysis, more reading, analysis.
I learned a lot more from that time back then.
I was about to say.
And now that our feet are wet, so to speak, we can breeze through case studies a lot quicker and come up with some good analysis, rather than getting it cold and bad.
You just started the program.
Yep. No, that's right now. This is my first one.
So you're full-time?
Yeah.
All through?
Yeah, but
I'm planning on getting it done in a year.
So is this your first time teaching people?
And I remember the rabbits.
This is the third time I've tried that.
Oh, there were problems, Mike. Okay.
That shows you how old we are, Claudia. Yeah.
Where's your
I
office?
thought he worked with
No, I spent 16 years as an assistant county attorney for Broward County, and I've been in private practice for about almost 11 years. Greenberg is really.
Jeez, I used to kill some of those rabbits.
18 different lawyers in like 35 cities.
I heard in the building that they're building in downtown Miami, 80% of it is law firms. I thought that was really great.
Greenberg is in the Wells Fargo Center. Pretty new offices in the Wells Fargo Center in downtown Miami. It's been a couple of years.
We're in the same building where we're having our ULI conference.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Did O'Shea
Same
start
building.
yet?
Same building.
In front of who?
O'Shea Shay, the new zoning?
Oh, Denny?
He started?
I haven't seen him in the office, but I think they might be putting him in an office manager for now, so he can be there when I went to see him. But I know Danny, I've known Danny a long time.
So that's a shift in politics.
He's a very good guy.
Is Styles a client of Greater Florida?
Yeah, they don't use exclusively us, but we do a lot of real estate transactional work for Styles.
The planning of use.
That's why he said if you want to talk with me, like we'll have discussions, I can call you, you don't have to pay for it.
Yeah, the paraprofessional that they use where we'll hire more transactional.
Look at you, you're like, oh wow,
We used to have a planner in our office, but sometimes so with the mortgages, all that, we don't have a planner on staff right now.
They have the sheet and everything there.
All the city staff, always have these planners on.
I mean, yeah, the really small ones. They might use a consulting firm, you know, all the maybe the official, but they use a consulting firm, even planning staff. Some of the not so small, the city of Weston, entire staff is outsourced. Calvin provides their engineering, planning.
Every 2 weeks.
Man, it's all 100% outsourced.
What the style is telling us, we have these relationships with public, and so they like to have a point to
I think these are like shared, just, I think by that day, so they like.
I have it in front of me.
What is it?
by outsourcing it to do that.
CM, is that you? Yeah.
I was worried.
That's a really cool thing about the annexation.
One guy just.
That's great. That's great. Maybe good sidebar.
You know, I've been cooking soup from day one, and I've never had anything, so thank you for bringing that up.
I don't know.
They just told us.
I always value these classes.
No, that's right.
I think they're like, no doubt the online classes, like, it was really well done. But I was like, first of all, you have respect for them. If you have any class that you go out to the field, that's the class. But, you know, he's a good instructor, but the lack of being able to ask, you know, on the spot questions. He's like, yeah, you didn't hire me up, you know. They live in New Zealand, like, that's like 8 years ago.
He doesn't answer questions on the spot.
No, this was a good one. No, it's an the instructor for the last, I don't know if you guys got the same one, but it was an online class. I would say, of all classes, doing field trips and things like that, instructors going out hard sites and looking at what they're explaining to us, you know, on the
Yeah, let us know how those grades came up tomorrow.
No, because so there's an accounting class, really, again, if you had financials, so all the classes, it's the other way around, like, you need these classes before you need those, right? So you need to have a financial class with an accounting class. And then you have a bunch of project, just like we did with customer development, but much more complex with an AI competition. So you're putting together comprehensive projects. I know, he was so you need all the other classes first. I just opened it.
This semester, so I can, because there's no way that I can take all that workload.
I mean, if you had to do something, I mean,
all my best friends.
Marcus, that's the one you told me to keep that.
I know, but I didn't value that construction. It's a familiarity construction, and it gets you exposure on how to use this program. Like it teaches you, how to use this drop down menu. As far as like value and learning, there's no, it's not a lot of learning. It's just teaching you how to use this software.
I'll do the assessment.
You can generate reports using the Argus system. And he takes you through online how to do it. It shows you every single step, and then he says, okay, generate me a report that has these things on it. And so you just go back through and redo everything and real value.
Does it give you a time limit? 30 minutes, an hour?
Just turn it in whatever. And trust me, it's the easiest class you'll have.
And then they what about the market?
It's like, I think it's like college.
No, yeah.
What about the market?
That's on this
I mean, honestly, marketing visibility was very helpful for those final projects.
Oh, and then just train my own guy.
Before we go there.
I have no revenue.
How
That's one very large project, very simple class. A lot of like.
So when do you finish tax?
I think the Argus one is not work intensive. That average weekly time for me on Argus was less than that. That's it. It was easy. And I was like, okay, it's literally I'm just showing you how to use Excel basically. Like, this is how to do something. This is how to, it is that basic.
So when do you finish the program?
Don't look at that as a
But the development strategy, some things we have to do, projects, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think
Every once in a while, they try to follow.
What were you guessing?
I guess.
When do you finish the program?
March.
And I'm very flexible.
So he posts a series of videos. He does like 10 videos, like 10 minutes long. It's really not that much time. He does an hour and a half maybe. And you watch the videos, and he's like I said, he's like, generate this report for me using your own values that he gives you, and then generate this report. But if you go back through the videos and just put it in just like he showed you, you will generate it. It takes an hour. No. You have until Monday to have it in. And 30 videos are released per week. Yep. And 30 minutes an hour. It's very low. It's also only 1 credit, right? Like it's a low. It's not a. Is it 2 credits? Okay. It's not. So the flip side of that, your construction was actually probably harder than a lot of my in-class classes. There was each week there was probably 10 hours, and you still there was just so much material covered, and it's like you have no exposure to any of this stuff. It's the first time I'm learning. 10 hours of video online, and it's like, because it was so comprehensive. Yeah. And they were on like an online administrative site. There were times. They had a proctor that watched you. You had to have a webcam that watched you to make sure you didn't have any like notes and stuff.
What's this for?
This is construction. Like, it's a harder class than it looks. Like it's and like I said, I just didn't. I wish they would have had a more field trip oriented class, right? Like. It would have been easier for me to understand what tiebacks and what all these construction things are if I actually see it and ask a guy who works in general contracting, right? Like instead of, I mean, the guy's a good instructor, there's no doubt he is, but there's just only so much you can learn in a book. You know? This semester, I think we have strategy, Argus. I'm loading it up every day.
because you can finish this program in a year.
Right, no, that's what I'm planning.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna do
So you're taking four?
Yeah.
I'm taking a few graduations.
So if I did two parts?
No. So there's 2 artist classes. There's 2 artists. So this class is development. I've taken the discount cash flow class. So one's a pro forma class, the other one's all about all the other stuff. Yeah.
Did he let you take the instruction?
It's painful.
What's that? Did he open that instruction?
Right after, like you need to keep the money, and then you have these.
No. It's offered once a year. So all these courses are offered once a year. And that's the thing.
Do they open them up only
Not necessarily.
Right. During that semester.
So because he started, when did you start?
There was one class that they said they offered twice. It was the other law class. Other than that, everything's offered once a year.
And that's why they recommend you go with the program, otherwise it's backward.
It's hard to do it in, you can either do it in 1 or 1.5 or 2.
It is, but it isn't, right? So the one thing that they said is that, like, and I will say this is true, is that it's a comprehensive course, and each class covers material from other classes, right? And so even though I had not heard of it before, even in the other classes that I had, the 4 classes that I had, I was learning about the same subjects as you guys are. You know, you're learning about the same subjects in this class as the other one, right? We're still talking zoning. Right? You know, the zoning aspects are still.
Your group project you did with your group?
I'm just saying, for our development class,
So
we had to do a portion on zoning, right? Which we
all
covered in
yourself,
this class, right? And so
You're not
that
gonna do
happens
5
in your other classes.
So
where you have to overlap. And so
that's
why
what
they
marketing
say it's
utility
okay to
class
come in
is.
at any point.
You may be pretty groups, but
And again,
it's going to be a more comprehensive study.
Okay, but that's online.
Development's gonna have.
It is online.
They just all have to overlap with each
We
other.
don't have groups though.
Probably not.
So,
Yeah, what, which ones?
Well, when I saw the description for strategy class, I asked Forby, shouldn't we take that
Send
towards
it
the
out
end of the
tonight
program?
at 5, but you have until Monday.
Because he
Oh, the
told,
strategy, which
he
you
told
have
me,
to make, right?
yes,
The whole class is about
it would make sense that if you took Argus, you would be able to employ that into your house.
So I have eliminated that off my charts right off.
But he said, no, don't worry about it. Have a market time. It's not going to be
Right, so that I'm eliminating.
some people may want to eliminate that.
I am.
Because you want to use the Argus for that class.
Yeah, so that's
So,
okay, I don't need that.
so your choice is capital markets, sustainability, and Argus.
Actually, I'm paused whether
Capital markets is going to be like a fun class. It's going to be a tough one. It's going to be great, but it's going to be a tough
very painful. You have no idea what these classes are called. Because I'm doing my business class.
But it's like only.
You know what I mean? It's really, I overcommitted myself. And I'm not going to do the Why? You mean you can't do it? Quincy, why? You get seasick?
And they'll tell you to take some bigger little.
all this stuff.
I'm gonna be like
Those are the things that keep me that I have other computer.
Yes.
emailed the paper? Did you send it to my email?
They see your screen, and your screen.
Like remote access.
Because it's the only way, and it works, it's the only way you can't like really sit there.
Yeah, but is it like, do you know what to study for at least?
Yeah, all of it. The construction.
I just,
All of it.
I just double checked to make sure you
There
have
was 12 sections, each section had like 4 sections. I did like, it was this morning, you cleaned my butt before I got over the exam.
to the 11th later.
I'm gonna look right now.
Alex, did you, when you sent your paper forms, did you send it by email? What email address did you send it to?
The wrong one. He's been working on it
No, I mean,
all
I
class.
can get it from.
That's totally different.
Real estate finance.
I can get it from. Is it beginning or mark? Okay, well, I'll look for it.
Yeah, okay. 3 o'clock yesterday.
Maybe like, yeah, it's on there.
I need a lot of free,
Okay, so that's my number. All right, I'll get it.
Because even he said the schedule.
Again, remember to make sure that I receive from everybody.
yeah, well, the schedule he said on the first page is wrong. They all changed.
Can't change your date.
Yeah.
Big time, Sam.
So you took the construction course?
Yeah, I'm halfway through the program, like, oh, what's 4?
I got one.
Carol, did you email yours?
1.5.
To my Nova address?
Well, he said that the one is already done by his.
Yeah, I prefer the law firm, but it's okay, as long as I know, I just wanna make sure.
Did you skip it? Because I saw it.
That's why you have to take law or the other class.
He's not really
No, we don't get
I just know all about it. Maybe he's gonna hire us.
Just like the capital.
The developer tried to have
You gave me like, you gave me like,
I do get mail there, I don't get it.
see how I shake people.
I have to go look, that's where you send your.
Yeah, I know.
Just so you know, some persons have, like I had an issue that happened with one of our parents, where he didn't get an email from me, and I had to resend it. He thought I had not submitted something, and the network or whatever, the Nova email, sometimes it doesn't work properly, so just so you know. So if you get the email, that's it.
If I
Sometimes you, as long as you get the original email that they sent, he accepted it, but
no,
but the Nova email.
That isn't something I would ever shoot.
Never. Like, if I can just show
as
you
long
an
as I know
example,
which
like,
one's yours, if I don't find them, I'll email them, they can forward
I
it.
just picked that one from I'll show you.
We don't now have like
Gavin Iverson.
No. So San Miguel. I know. He did.
I swear.
So
Unless you're like
So
someone
different
who looks like
motives.
you're holding hands.
I don't know, yeah, but he's a good.
Look at that.
I haven't taken it, I heard from my brother.
I can't just wait to have.
I don't think this, Sandy Hill is
Every Friday night like last night.
Sandy Hill is kind of final, right? Just those long projects.
But the next class apparently he's got.
I just said I'm sick. And then today I'm like, oh, I'm not sick anymore.
Well, I was still finishing the paper, so I
Right, me
For
too.
last night.
Because on the email, it sounds like it's dirty, so enjoyable.
No, they know I'm in trouble. They know.
We're actually gonna be done very soon. I've got a little bit that I wanna go over with you, and then I'm gonna be available for questions or review.
I don't know how many
This whole
guys.
class was like my whole undergrad, so I love it.
I don't understand how like if they expect the guy, teachers for 10 hours and stuff,
I don't get it.
or 9, whatever.
It's like we can't sit here all day. How can you guys sit up there and teach?
Well, I changed some things about the class because after the first class, now I was a little bit hampered at our first class because I had to drive to Gainesville and back the 2 days before. But I couldn't get out. I was like, my back was so sore. It's not good to be old. I try not to get old, but of course the other option is to die, so I guess go ahead.
Well, you cannot bring,
I don't want to die.
you cannot bring one of your partners in to assist you just to give us a different perspective.
I tried, and don't take this personally, but I can't find anyone who will come on a Saturday.
Speakers help out with time and
And they break things up, and you get tired of this. I get tired of this sound of my voice, so I'm sure that you do too. No, when I used to do it on a Friday night and a half-day Saturday, I could get speakers in on a Friday night sometimes because they would just come after work. But I can't get, and the guy I wanted to is our historic protection expert. He's a young guy who's very good at it. But coming up from Miami on a Saturday, I'm sorry, he was not. So I need to get a strategy to get guest speakers in more in this class, assuming that anybody wants me to teach it again.
How about them shooting it from wherever they are on the screen? You could do that through a web
I
conference.
suggested that to him. So I think I just kind of need to get ahead of it more, and I'll.
Or going to a hearing or something.
oh yeah.
If the class
You can do
remains,
that online.
yeah, and if the class remains not in the summer, if it remains in this time period, then figuring out a public hearing to attend together is more realistic. But when I used to teach it, the last 2 years I taught it more in the summer, and local governments just basically shut down for 6 or 8 weeks in the summer. The staff doesn't get the meetings do.
What time frame?
Some of them do 6 weeks, June and half July. Some of them do July and half August, and then they start